Hello everyone, and welcome back to this tutorial series. So far we are able to fetch our jobs and we are displaying them very nicely on the job listing page. Okay, but how about clicking on a specific job and seeing the details for that job? Well, that's not gonna work for now because if I click, for example, like I just did, you see a 404 error. This page cannot be found, and the reason is because obviously we haven't created this page yet. Okay, so the URL, as you can see from the link here, it's basically job and then slash the slug of the job. Okay, so let's create a page that matches this pattern in our Next.js application, right? So what we're gonna do is first of all create a page called job. Okay, and in that page we are gonna create sorry, I want to do something. I want to do this in a different branch, so I'm gonna git stash what I just did here. Okay, just git stash and then git checkout branch feature tutorial 14 and then live. Okay, now I'm in a new branch so I don't damage what I did earlier. Okay, so what we want to do, okay, we want to create a page here, and then within this page what we want to do is we want to create slug.jsx, and this is Next.js way of saying that this is a dynamic parameter that we are passing to the page. Okay, so for example here, if I create a page like the index page, it's basically like the root page. Okay, if I like the way it works, if I create, let me do that actually. Let me say I create a dummy page, dummy .jsx. Okay, and I try to access it, it's gonna work, right? If let me create a page here, a React component that goes with this. Okay, and I go on the front end and I try to access it, it's definitely gonna work. Okay, dummy. Right, it's gonna render, right? That's it, dummy, right? But this is static, right? This is static. There's no way for us to pass a parameter to this page, and it's going to be very rigid. But in our case, we want the job, we want the slug of the job to appear in the URL, right? So that's why we have, and it's Next.js way using these brackets to tell that this is going to be a dynamic route. So let me delete this one. Okay, and let's add a scaffolding to this page using our Next.js our React extension. Okay, so I'm going to replace this by get job details page. Okay, job details page. All right, job details page. I'm going to do the same here. All right, and if I look this again, if I go to the home page, let me go to the home page. Okay, refresh this and I click on anyone, you see it's going to be slug. All right, so now you know already that we like to have things very modular. So I'm going to create a component in the details. Remember, we have a scaffolding here. I'm going to create a details page in this folder, which is going to hold every component that is a details component, right? So at the moment, what we're going to build is the details, jobs details component, and later on we're going to also have like a company details component, right? So let's create that. I'm going to create a folder first of all, make directory, cursive, and then components, data, and then details. Okay, that's it. Let's create that, and then inside let's create the component job details, right? Job details. Okay, JSX. Very good. Get to the scaffolding. Very good. Let's use that here. Okay, so let's import, actually need this, import job details component, right? This is what we need, job details, and then you're just going to render it here like this. Okay, let's render that. Very good. Let's come here. Very good. You see, it's already displaying. very nicely. But you'll notice something. Now, we had a problem earlier that when we went to the jobs, we had a 404. Now we don't get a 404, but see what happens if I add a slug that doesn't exist, right? Well, it still works. It shouldn't, right? It shouldn't work because this is not a job that exists in the database, right? So if I do does not exist, well, it's still going to display our component. And to prove to you that it's actually working, let me put here the jobs details component. Okay, you see, it works, but that's definitely not what we want. We want this page to only display for jobs that actually exist. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. So next thing you want to do is to create the props that are going to be passed down to this. First of all, we want to generate the paths. Okay, so we want to generate the paths that are going to be necessary to prevent us from having pages like this also render our component. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is generate the paths, like I said. So let's use Next.js extension to VS Code extension to scaffold the function. Okay, and inside this, what do we want to do? Okay, we want to return the different paths. Okay, by default this is the empty array, but this is the parameter that we want to return. Okay, and how do we get the slugs? Because ultimately we want to pass the slugs to we want to generate all the paths, the possible paths. Okay, so what we're going to do is const jobs. We're going to get the jobs, await get jobs. Okay, from the data layer. Very good. Okay, we get the jobs, and then what we do, we get the slugs. Slugs equals to jobs.map. Okay, and then you have the job. Once you have the job, what you do, you get the slug of that job, right? That's very simple, easy stuff. Now we generate the paths. Const paths equals to slugs.map. Okay, the way Next.js want us to return it is basically, I mean, not necessarily. This is like a convention, is that you return convention in the JavaScript, in the Next.js community, you return the parameter from the paths. Okay, and now we have it. We have what we want to return. We can just put it here. Okay, and these paths, these are the available paths. Now if I click here and I refresh, you're gonna see this path is not available, right? This does. Okay, first of all, we need, when you create a get static paths, you also need to create what you call a get static props. Okay, because get static props is going to be the function consuming the paths that we are generating here. So let's create that as well. Next.js static get static props. Okay, and the parameter that these params that we are returning here, you see we are returning an array. Okay, an array of paths, and each path is basically an object that contains a params parameter. So I'm going to destructure that here in the input of this function, because okay, params, inside I'm going to get the slug. Okay, I'm going to get the slug, the particular slug, params.slug. Okay, and I'm going to get, now that I have the slug, oops, okay, now that I have the slug, what can I do with it? Because now here for this particular page, I want to get the job that has this slug. Okay, so one way to do that, one very inefficient way to do that, is to get all the jobs and then filter and just return the actual one that has that particular slug. So let's get all the jobs again. Jobs equals await. Okay, await get jobs. Very good. And we're gonna get the actual job by filtering. Okay, get the job equals to jobs.filter. Okay, I'm sure you know this function in JavaScript. You just pass in an anonymous function, and you make sure that your condition is met, which is basically you want the slug can even add this, okay? And this is going to return an array, okay? And if it's found, which it should because this is a slug generated from unless the user clicks and pass in an incorrect value, we should get something here, okay? So I'm going to add 0 because we only have, remember when we did the data modeling, the slug is meant to be unique, so we will never have in a Contentful CMS or whatever CMS you're using a slug, two jobs with the same slug, okay? So we are safe in getting this the one found here. And what we're going to do is very simple. We're just going to return it here like this, okay? And from that point on, what we can do, okay, now get static props. What is returned by get static props is passed to the actual component. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to do like this job, right, with the structure, whatever it is that you're passing as a prop, and we're going to pass it down as well to the job details component. So let's do that. Job, very good. And in the job detail component, let's get that as well like this, and let's console log it. Okay, let's console log job. Very good. Okay, so let's come here. Obviously this one is not going to work because there's no job that has, you see, we are back to 404 because we could not generate this path, right? So let's go to the home page. Okay, let me go to the home page like this. Very good. Now if I click here, very good. Now let's see what's in the console log. Extend this like this. See what's in the console. You see, now we have our job printed perfectly, right, from the job details page line 4, and that's exactly what we're doing here, right? So now it's working, but there's a big but with what we did so far. It does work, but it's very inefficient code. Here, let me tell you why. First of all, in get static, let's recap what we did. Okay, so we are using get static paths to generate all the possible paths that are like all the valid paths based on the slugs of the jobs, okay? And for each path, we use it as a parameter, okay? We pass the slug to the get static props. Basically, the get static props is the function responsible for fetching the data that the page component needs, okay? Which is this page here, okay? And what do we use for doing that? Because this, remember, this is a dynamic page. We use the slug, right? We use the slug, the parameter called slug, and we fetch all the jobs in the database, and then we filter by the slug, the found jobs, to find the one that is relevant for this particular slug, okay? That's what we're doing. But there's a big but. There's a big issue in that, first of all, here we are overfetching. In this function, the only thing that we need are the slugs, right? But we are fetching a big payload. You see this? We are fetching everything here. It has the about you. Basically, it's a big payload for when we only need this, right? So it's very inefficient. The only thing we need in that first as you can see here, the only thing that we need is the slug, but we are fetching everything, all the jobs in the database, and for each of them we are fetching all their fields, which is very inefficient. And secondly, here also we are fetching all the jobs when we only want one job, right? We have the slug for that particular job, but we are fetching all of them once again a second time, just for the sake of filtering and returning only one, right? So we have two inefficient queries in this implementation, and the next two videos, we're going to see how to make that more efficient. So I hope you find this useful, and I see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.